Hi everyone! Renate here from Crafty Renate. Welcome back to my channel. This video is the second video in a series of me making my very first junk journal. And in the first video, which I will link up here if you're interested and you haven't seen it yet, I made the cover for the junk journal, which is this cover, but I show you me making it. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how I put in these signatures. I'm not gonna spoil too much just yet, but so signatures are little bundles of paper, as you can see here, and you have multiple signatures in a junk journal and you need to bind them or glue them or whatever. But it is my very first time doing it, and as I said in the previous video as well, and I'm gonna repeat it now, this series, these are not tutorials. I do show everything I'm doing, and obviously you can get inspiration from that and you can learn things from that, but it's me just figuring it out for myself for the first time. So I'm gonna show you the papers I picked out, how I put them together, how I made the signatures, how I bound it. It is not perfect, okay? I made mistakes, that's the whole thing. These are craft with me videos, so I'm gonna be making mistakes. And I'm not going to edit them out and pretend they didn't happen, because you can learn from mistakes and you might learn from watching my mistakes. And also, one of the reasons I want to do junk journaling is because I am a perfectionist and I want to learn to let that go a little bit and create things and put things together, and just for the joy of creating, just for the joy of making it. And not because I have a clear vision of what it needs to look like or that it needs to be perfect, because I find that it's very paralyzing to be so focused on it needing to be perfect from the first try, and that just stops me from doing things, basically. So I'm actually totally okay with, I'm trying to be okay with things not being perfect when I do these junk journals. So without further ado, let's create some signatures. I'm measuring how big the pages need to be, more or less. And then I'm gonna start cutting them using my paper cutting machine. Of course, you could just use an X-Acto knife or scissors as well. Look how pretty this coffee stained paper is. If you'd like to see how I do that, let me know. With this paper, I stain the edges using Distress ink and a blending tool. I check where the folds of my cover are and I score those lines onto my pages using a scoring board, and I fold them. Now, of course, that's wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. I clearly wasn't thinking. Such a weird mistake to make, because obviously they just need to be folded in two and lay flat to create signatures. So I did cut out the rest of the footage where I'm scoring those lines onto all of those pages, as it clearly was a mistake. I'm just choosing some fun papers that I would like to use. And some pieces are small, so a way to use them as an actual page is by gluing a smaller strip onto another piece of paper. I start off using a repositionable glue roller just to see if it works out. Then I go back and use a permanent glue roller to glue it permanently. This beautiful handmade paper made by my mom. The not so sturdy pieces may not make a good base page, so I'm just gonna use a few of the stronger ones. I can always glue pieces of the rest onto pages as embellishments when I start filling the pages. Now I'm putting together the first signature and the order I want my pages to be in. I'm also flattening my pages because this is still that white spine from the mistake I made earlier. It's not a problem to flatten them now though. Of course, this also means the pages will be a little bit too wide for my cover, so I'm gonna have to cut some more off. I'm doing the same thing for all of my signatures, and I think I want about 4 or 5 so that it fills up my cover, but not too much because I'm obviously still gonna need to fill the pages of the junk journal with all sorts of embellishments and things like that. So it will get bulkier as I'm working in it. Once I'm done, it's time to do the binding, and I'm a little bit nervous about this, to be honest. So I'm measuring where all of my signatures need to be positioned and where the holes for my thread need to be. But dividing the spine by 5 is another mistake, as it'll only give me positions for 4 signatures instead of 5. Now, as I'm sick of measuring at this point, I'm just gonna eyeball it and hope it'll turn out well that way. What I am still gonna measure is where the 3 holes need to be and my signatures for my thread. I'm using embroidery floss in a color that matches the spine. And now I'm going to poke my 3 holes into the first signature using a puncture needle. To make sure the pages don't move when I'm doing that, I'm using clips to hold them into place. Now I position the signature where I think it needs to go, and I'm puncturing the spine in the same 3 spots. To bind it, I'm putting my needle and thread through the middle hole outward. Then I'm going through the hole on the right. And then I'm going back through the middle hole. Then going through the hole on the left. And I make sure everything is nice and tight and bring my needle underneath the right thread. And then I can tie knots. So I'm just gonna tie a couple of knots, make sure everything is nice and tight, and then trim the excess thread. I'm gonna be doing the same thing for every signature. And just like that, my junk journal now has pages. Let me show you the blank pages I'm going to be working with. So the finished product, I am actually really pleased. I know my signatures aren't equally spaced within the cover. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I know that my threading is not, again, not evenly spaced and not perfectly straight, but doesn't really bother me that much. See, I'm being cured of perfectionism already. It bothers me a little bit, but it's okay. But I wanted to have pages in my book so I could start, and I have pages in my book so I can start, which is a win in my book. In my book. Yes, in my book. I'm lame. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button. It helps my channel out. And I will see you soon with my next video. Bye!